Hey guys, happy holidays and welcome back to Fantasy Tipped. My name is Julian, and in today's episode, we're going to be discussing players that you might want to buy or sell in trades, players that are underperforming a little bit that you might want to pick up in deals, and players that are overperforming quite a bit that you might want to sell high on. Before we get started, guys, please leave a like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and follow me on Twitter at FantasyTipped. I'm constantly releasing updates for you guys to help you win each and every week of your fantasy hockey season. So let's jump right into the content now. Let's start with some sell high players. And the first guy on my list is Riley Smith, who's having a really great season with 24 points in 31 games. He's pretty close to a point per game pace right now. Last year, he had only 25 points in 53 games. So he's definitely way exceeding his pace from last year. His shooting percentage is his career average, and his on-ice shooting percentage is pretty much average as well. So it's possible that he doesn't regress that much. However, the reason he's been doing so well, in my opinion, is that he's been getting a lot of extra ice time because Vegas had a lot of injuries earlier in this season. There was no Mark Stone, there was no Pacioretty, there was no Marchessault for a little bit, and there was no William Karlsson for a bit. So Riley Smith was on the top line for a good while there and was getting a lot of power play opportunity and a lot of ice time. Now, Riley Smith still does see power play time. He's on the second unit though, so not as much as he used to. And he still does see second line time on that line with Karlsson and Marchessault. So it's not like he's going to be completely terrible the rest of the season. That's not what I'm saying at all. I just think that his stats right now are a little bit inflated because he was given a bigger opportunity earlier in the year. And now that everyone's pretty much healthy, Riley Smith might slow down a little bit. So see if you can sell him to someone who's going to be better down the stretch, like maybe a Sean Couturier if you can pull that off. Next is Dmitry Orlov of the Washington Capitals, and he's been having himself a pretty nice season with 14 points in 31 games, basically a point every 2 games, and he's putting up some decent peripherals. He's putting up shots, blocks, and hits. Not a crazy amount of each, but he's putting up a sizable amount every game to give himself a pretty safe floor. Now, those peripherals are definitely something that he can continue for the rest of the year. The points, I'm not so sure. Most recently, he was on Washington's top power play because of all the injuries like Backstrom and Oshie and Wilson. All those guys right now are either on COVID or are hurt. So once they start getting guys back, Orlov will only be power play 2, which isn't terrible. If you're in a deep league, you can definitely hold on to him. But he's definitely not going to be as good as he has been earlier in the season. I don't see those points coming in as much as they did earlier in the year. So if you can sell him for a more guaranteed player, I would do that because Orlov is going to go down in roster percentage pretty soon. Next is Erik Johnson of the Colorado Avalanche, and he's had himself a really strong season since coming back from injury. 36% owned only so far, but his percentage of ownership has been going up a lot. Only went down a little bit because Colorado had their games canceled, but the dude has 11 points through 27 games and has been putting up some really great peripherals, shots, blocks, and hits. So definitely been really good in that department, putting up almost 2 of each per game. Now, those peripherals is something that he might be able to maintain for the rest of the year. The points, I'm not so sure. Bowen Byram has missed a lot of the season, and when he comes back, Erik Johnson might not have as big of a role because right now he's getting a lot of ice time and he's looking really good. So it's possible that he does stay in that role, but I don't think he continues to get a point almost every 2 games. It just doesn't seem likely to me, especially with Bowen Byram probably given better offensive opportunities than Erik Johnson. So to me, it just seems unlikely that Erik Johnson will continue to score at that offensive pace. So if you're able to sell him a little bit high right now, that's what I would do. If you have him in a cash league though, and you want to keep him for those shots, blocks, and hits, that's perfectly fine too. You don't absolutely have to sell this guy. I just don't think he's going to be that great down the stretch. Moving on to another Colorado Avalanche, and that's Valeri Nichushkin, and he has 16 points, 10 goals through 18 games, which is pretty crazy. His shooting percentage right now is 21.3%. Please tell me that you guys know that that's not sustainable. It's very, very high. His career average is a normal shooting percentage, honestly a little bit below average of 9.4. So this current shooting percentage is not going to last. He's playing on a very hot line now with Nazem Kadri, but like I've been saying in past videos, guys, Kadri is going to slow down as well. So if Kadri slows down, Nichushkin will also slow down. And he was recently playing on the top line with McKinnon, but that's due to a bunch of injuries. And so when everybody comes back after the Christmas break, Valeri Nichushkin, yeah, he's going to still do decently on that second line with Kadri and Burakovsky, but I'm not expecting huge things going forward. So if you can move him to someone who thinks that he's going to continue scoring at this pace, you absolutely got to do that. Next is Andre Burakovsky, and recently had a huge uptick in rostership to up to 70% because he ended up being promoted to the top line with Nathan MacKinnon, and from there he looked pretty good actually. He scored a hat trick in one game, and he looked pretty good overall on the ice. The thing is, he's not going to stay on the top line with Nathan MacKinnon. That line is pretty much locked in with Rantanen and Landeskog, right? Burakovsky is going to be on that second line with Nichushkin and Kadri in all likelihood, and if he does stay there, he doesn't really produce that much there. He has some really hot streaks and some really cold streaks, so I don't personally love to have streaky guys like that on my team, so I prefer to trade Burakovsky right now when he's really high value to someone who might give you something nice like a Sean Couturier or someone like that who's going to be sustainable throughout the year. And to help back up my stats, guys, Burakovsky's shooting percentage right now is 24%, which is insanely high. His career average is 12.8%. Although the previous 2 years he averaged almost 19%, but it's 24% is still very, very, very high for Burakovsky, and he's not going to continue scoring goals at this pace, right? His on-ice shooting percentage is 14% as well, so that's also very high. So he's getting a little bit lucky, and that's why, guys, this is the best time to sell Burakovsky. Now, if I had to put a sixth guy on my sell high list, I would put Charlie Lindgren of the St. Louis Blues. Binnington is back now, and I don't see Charlie Lindgren taking the crease anytime soon. So unless you're in the deepest of leagues, I'm dropping Charlie Lindgren right now, or at the very least, I'm trying to sell him to someone who doesn't know any better and would probably give you something half decent for him. Next is Dougie Hamilton of the New Jersey Devils, and has 17 points through 27 games this season, has a lot of shots, a nice amount of blocks, and a decent amount of hits. He's been a very good defenseman this year, just like everyone thought he was going to be. But he's on a cold streak right now, has only 2 points in his last 8, and both of those are assists. So he's definitely cold right now, so now is the time to buy low on Dougie Hamilton. Offer whatever you can to the person who has Dougie Hamilton right now, because they might be frustrated with him, so you might be able to get him at a bargain. Dougie Hamilton is one of the best defensemen in the league, so don't hesitate to offer some decent players for him. Number 2 on my buy low list is David Pastrnak of the Boston Bruins, and through 26 games, he has 21 points, 115 shots on goal. That's pretty good. The thing is, lately, he has only 2 points, which are both assists, in his last 7 games. He's pretty cold right now. His shooting percentage is only 7%, whereas his career shooting percentage is 13.7. So he's shooting at like half of his career average. So right now, Pastrnak is having a subpar season for his standards. His on-ice shooting percentage as well is 8.9. And his career average is 11.4, which makes sense because he plays on an elite line. So right now, he's super cold. And that's saying something because he still has 21 points in 26 games. So he's not exactly doing terribly. And people that own Pastrnak are actually getting frustrated with him. So if you can throw out a lowball offer right now for Pastrnak, you absolutely have to do that. He's definitely one of the best players in the league. He's someone who can score like crazy. And he's someone that you absolutely have to go after right now in a trade, especially if the person that owns him doesn't realize how amazing this guy is. Next on my buy low list is Elias Pettersson, and he's had a pretty abysmal season for his standards with only 16 points in 31 games. Now, lately though, he's had a 3-game point streak. So you definitely want to buy low on him now before it's too late to buy low on him, and then you'll have to buy him high. So you don't want to do that. You want to buy him now where his value is still pretty low because he only does have 16 points in the whole season. Vancouver's changed their management now. They have a new coach, and Pettersson's getting much better opportunities right now, and he's looking a lot better. I think the players overall are a lot happier with the new management, the new coach. So I think Pettersson is going to really start turning on the heat right now. Like you've seen, Brock Besser has really turned it around. So Pettersson's going to do the exact same thing, I think. And he's definitely a really good candidate to buy right now. His shooting percentage is 8.7%, whereas his career is like double that at 16.2. And his on-ice shooting percentage is 8.7, and his career is 12. So Pettersson is going to improve. I'm not scared about that at all. Go out and buy him now before it's too late and he starts turning it on like crazy. Next is Sean Couturier of the Philadelphia Flyers, has only 17 points through 29 games, which is pretty low for his standards. But he is top line and top power play, and in my opinion, he's the best player on Philadelphia. He only has 3 points in his last 9 games, but this guy is easily a 70-point guy. Over the last 4 seasons, the previous seasons, he's been on that pace to hit about 70 points. So his shooting percentage this year is 7.6, and his career average is 11.4, and his average over the previous 4 seasons is even higher than that. His on-ice shooting percentage is also a little bit low at 8.6, so this guy will turn it around a little bit, and Philadelphia seems to be scoring a lot more now. Their power play seems to be clicking now. He's the top power play, so I'm really not too worried about Sean Couturier. He's a stud, and he's a really good player. So if you can get him now for almost nothing, that's an amazing deal for you. Next is Anthony Duclair of the Florida Panthers, having a good season with 17 points through 21 games, getting close to that point per game mark. He's less than 50% rostered right now, but he was over 70% rostered before he got injured. And since he came back from injury, he has no points in 2 games, but he does get a lot of his value from playing with Barkov, and Barkov wasn't there for those 2 games. Now, Barkov should be back after the break, and Duclair should continue to slot in on his wing. Now, I understand that his shooting percentage is really high this year, and his on-ice shooting percentage is a little bit high too. That being said, I don't think his goals are going to go down too much because playing with Barkov is just an amazing place to be, and he's looked so dynamic every single time he's on the ice. He's definitely someone that I'm buying low on right now because as soon as Barkov comes back, this guy's going to pop off again. Next is Kevin Fiala, and I feel like I've included him in this list like every single time I make it, but Fiala seems to finally be turning things around a little bit, has 20 points in 30 games this year, which isn't terrible, but he can definitely do better than that. And last game, he scored a couple of goals, and even after that, his shooting percentage this year was only 6.2%, which is very low. He's averaged over 12% in each of his last 2 seasons, so he's also shooting 3 times a game, so he's going to score a lot of goals this year. They're going to start coming now, and he's playing on that second line now. For some reason, they had Jordan Greenway in the top 6 instead of Fiala. Greenway's injured, and Fiala is there now, and he scored a couple goals. So I am assuming that when Greenway comes back, Fiala is going to stay in Minnesota's top 6 because it's just ridiculous to not have Fiala in their top 6. So as long as he stays in that top 6 position, Fiala is going to start to have a really good season, and he's going to start turning it around. He's a guy who likes to perform in the second half of the season, so expect him to pop off soon. Next is John Gibson of the Anaheim Ducks, 79% rostered, and he has only 1 win in his last 5 games and hasn't had the best save percentage as of late. Now, the Ducks have been a very pleasant surprise this year. They've actually been a pretty decent team, and I don't think they're going to plummet all of a sudden, right? I think they're going to be one of the better mid-tier teams, and because of that, John Gibson, his value is not too bad this year. He's going to get pretty much every start for Anaheim. And we all know that John Gibson is one of the best goalies in the league. So if you can buy low on John Gibson, go ahead and do that right now because he's someone you're going to like to have a piece of for the rest of the year. Next is Robin Lehner of the Vegas Golden Knights, and he hasn't had the strongest season so far this year. I don't think anyone can deny that. His save percentage is only .905. Goals against average is over 3 right now, and he's had no shutouts as of yet. The thing is, Vegas had a pretty rough start to the season with all of these injuries, and now they're finally starting to be healthy. And I know, Lehner still hasn't been at his best, but he's starting to look a little bit better and better every single night. And I think that he's really going to start finding his game after the new year. And I think he's going to have a really strong end to the season because Vegas is a really good team, and he's going to win a lot of games going forward. Next is Sam Bennett of the Florida Panthers, and he has only 14 points through 24 games this season, which is a little bit disappointing, but he's been pretty good all year except for recently, right? Recently, he has only 2 goals in his last 9 games. Now, I think that has a lot to do with a lot of the injuries in Florida, and because of that, the power play is not as good, and the guys around him aren't as good. So once the NHL resumes after Christmas, I think that Sam Bennett's going to be just fine. He's going to start scoring goals, scoring points, and he's going to continue to hit and shoot like he has been all year, giving him a pretty safe floor. This is someone that I would like to trade for right now because he's someone who's definitely on a cold streak, and someone might not value him that high since he only started really performing as a fantasy player last year. And last but not least, I have Mackenzie Weegar of the Florida Panthers. It's the 3rd Florida Panther of the video, I know, but he's ice cold right now. He has 15 points through 29 games, all assists so far, no goals. And his peripherals have been great, right? He's shooting, he's blocking, he's hitting, which give him a super safe floor every single night, which is great. But he has no points in his last 4 games. And in his last 3 games, he went -2, -3, and -2. So whoever owns Mackenzie Weegar might be really frustrated with him right now, which makes right now the best time to buy Mackenzie Weegar because he's one of the best defensemen in the league. He's super consistent, will give you a super safe floor every single night, and I think he's going to continue like he's been doing all season besides those last 3 games. And he's going to score a couple of goals as well. He's not going to get 0 goals the entire season. So I think Mackenzie Weegar is definitely a really safe bet to buy low on right now because he's pretty much the safest defenseman that you can own in fantasy besides maybe Darnell Nurse. And that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching all the way through. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please leave a like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Follow me on Twitter. Happy holidays, guys. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. And I'll catch you in the next episode of Fantasy Tipped.